So as many of you know, the US has just captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Quite literally, gangster style, took him from his safe house in the middle of the night in a helicopter and brought him to the US. This is wild, to say the least. I went to Yale Law School where I focus in constitutional law, and there's a lot going on here. President DJT has framed this capture not as an act of war, but rather a legal enforcement against a narco leader. But is what he did actually legal? Does the USA have the authority to do something like this? This is going to be the simplest legal explanation that you're going to get. Starting off strong with international law. Under the United Nations Charter, which is a treaty that the US has ratified, there is a clear rule about military force. Article 2, Section 4 says that all members shall refrain from threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or the political independence of any other state. Essentially, no other country can use military force inside of a sovereign state's territory, unless under these two exceptions. 1, authorization by the UN Security Council, which didn't happen here, or 2, self-defense under Article 51, which in this case would only apply if there was an armed attack against the US, which again, we haven't seen. The thing about international law is there really aren't great mechanisms to enforce it. So even if someone violates it, other countries are like, well, what are you going to do about it? Let's move on to number 2 of why this is problematic. The US Constitution divides war powers between Congress and the President. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. Only them. While Article 3, Section 2 makes the President Commander-in-Chief and places him in charge of the military. Now, DJT didn't consult Congress before he went into Venezuela, and it was a pretty large-scale operation, with over 150 aircrafts deployed from 20 different bases. And many constitutional experts would argue that this exceeds the president's authority under the Constitution. But DJT's administration is arguing this is simply an arrest, not an act of war. But even that's tricky. Can Maduro legally be prosecuted? Typically, under international law, heads of state enjoy immunity. It doesn't seem like the DOJ is concerned about that, as he's already been indicted in New York on charges that include drug trafficking. And if convicted, he could face life in a US prison. Meanwhile, DJT has said that the US is going to run Venezuela for the time being, and is bringing in oil companies like Exxon to be in charge of the oil reserves. Now, this is not about whether Maduro is a bad guy or not. This is about DJT, a US president, using the military for his own agenda and where we go from here.